My name is Jessica Morgan. I'm 30 years old. And 12 years ago, my mother threw away my full ride scholarship to Stanford University because she was convinced I was too stupid to have earned it. Last Tuesday, I walked into a conference room at Berkshire Media Group in downtown Boston and watched my older sister Amy present a marketing proposal to a table of executives. She was confident, polished, wearing a navy Armani suit that probably cost more than her monthly rent. She had no idea I was sitting at the head of that table. She had no idea that 6 months ago I'd been promoted to Executive Vice President of Digital Strategy, making me her direct supervisor. When she finally looked up from her presentation and saw me, her laptop slipped out of her hands and hit the table with a crack that made everyone flinch. The room went silent. And for the first time in my entire life, I watched my sister look at me with something other than pity or contempt. She looked at me with fear. Before I tell you what happened in that conference room, hit like and subscribe, but only if this story genuinely resonates with you. Drop a comment and tell me where you're watching from right now and what time it is there. I read every single one. I want to know this story is reaching people in Tokyo at 3 a.m. and truck drivers in Nevada at noon and night shift nurses in Atlanta scrolling during their break. Now let me take you back to where this really started. Not the conference room. That was just the moment everything I'd built became visible. This story starts 12 years earlier in May 2013, when I was 18 years old and my sister Amy was 22. The day our college acceptance letters arrived. We grew up in Lexington, Massachusetts, a suburb 30 minutes outside Boston, where the median household income is $203,000 and the high school sends 94% of graduates to four-year colleges. Our house was a colonial on Hancock Street with black shutters and a two-car garage. My father, Richard Morgan, was a litigation attorney at Ropes and Gray, making $340,000 a year. My mother, Patricia Morgan, had been a high school English teacher before Amy was born. She quit to stay home full-time and never went back. Amy was the golden child from birth, literally from birth. My mother tells a story at every family gathering about how Amy slept through the night at 6 weeks old, smiled at 8 weeks, and spoke her first word at 9 months. The first word was mama. My mother has told this story at least 400 times. I've counted. I was born 4 years later. I didn't sleep through the night until I was 14 months old. My first word was no at 16 months. My mother does not tell stories about me at family gatherings. Amy was valedictorian at Lexington High School, GPA 4.0 unweighted, captain of the debate team, editor of the school newspaper, winner of the Massachusetts State Science Fair in 2009 for a project about antibiotic resistance that got written up in the Boston Globe. She got into Harvard early decision in December 2008 with a full academic scholarship that covered tuition, room, board, and books. Total value, $267,000 over 4 years. When the acceptance letter arrived, my mother cried for 20 minutes. She called everyone she knew, her sister, her book club, her yoga instructor, the neighbors, the mailman. She threw a party at our house the following Saturday with catered food from the Juniper table and a cake from Flower Bakery that said Harvard Class of 2013 in crimson frosting. 87 people came. I was 14 years old, and I spent the entire party refilling ice buckets and picking up empty wine glasses while grown adults congratulated my mother on having such an exceptional daughter. Nobody asked about me, not once. I was a decent student. Not brilliant like Amy, but solid. I had a 3.6 GPA by junior year. I played lacrosse, I was in drama club. I volunteered at the Lexington Food Pantry on Saturdays because I liked the work, not because it looked good on college applications. I had friends, I had hobbies. I had a life that didn't revolve around being perfect. But in our house, decent wasn't enough. Decent was invisible. Amy was at Harvard studying molecular biology. I was at Lexington High trying to figure out if I wanted to major in communications or psychology or maybe something else entirely. My mother's interest in my education extended exactly as far as making sure I wasn't failing anything. She checked Amy's grades at Harvard every semester. She never once asked to see my report card. Senior year, I applied to 11 colleges. I didn't tell my parents which ones. My mother assumed I was applying to state schools, maybe UMass Amherst or UMass Boston, somewhere affordable and unimpressive. She told me at Thanksgiving 2012 that I should consider community college first to save money since I probably wasn't ready for a four-year university. Amy was sitting right there. She didn't say anything. She just looked at me with this expression I'd seen my whole life, a mix of pity and superiority, the look you give someone who's trying hard but will never quite measure up. I applied to Stanford. Early action, non-binding. I'd wanted to go to Stanford since I was 15 years old. I'd visited the campus on a family trip to San Francisco in 2010. We were there to visit my father's college roommate who lived in Palo Alto. On the last day, I convinced my dad to drive through Stanford's campus. It was late afternoon in July. The sandstone buildings glowed gold in the sunlight. Palm trees lined the walkways. Students sat on the grass reading, laughing, existing in a way that looked nothing like the high-pressure anxiety of Lexington. I stood in the middle of the main quad and I thought, this is where I want to be. Not because it was prestigious, though it was. Not because it would impress anyone, though it might. But because it felt like freedom. 3,000 miles from Massachusetts. 3,000 miles from my mother's disappointment and Amy's shadow. I took the SAT 3 times. First score, 1,810. Not good enough. I studied for 6 months using a prep book I bought with babysitting money. Second score, 2,020. Better. I studied for 6 more months. Third score, 2,190. That would work. I wrote my college essay about volunteering at the food pantry. Not the volunteering itself, but a specific moment. There was a woman named Denise who came in every Saturday morning with her 2 kids, a boy named Marcus, who was 7, and a girl named Shayna, who was 4. Denise worked 2 jobs, one at a Dunkin' Donuts in Arlington and one cleaning houses in Concord. She made $28,000 a year. She was 34 years old. One Saturday in November 2012, Shayna asked me why we had so much food if we were just giving it away. I didn't know how to answer. I said something about sharing and helping people. Shayna looked at me like I was speaking another language. Then Marcus said, because some people have extra and some people don't, and the people with extra are supposed to share. He was 7 years old, and he understood economic inequality better than most adults I knew. I wrote my essay about that moment, about Marcus explaining the world to me, about how I'd grown up in a house where we had everything, and I'd never once thought about what it meant to have nothing. About how I wanted to study communications and public policy so I could tell stories that made people care about things they'd never experienced. Stanford accepted me in December 2012. Early action, with a full-ride scholarship. The Hewlett Scholarship, a merit-based award given to 20 incoming freshmen nationwide. It covered tuition, $52,000 a year, room and board, $14,000 a year, books, $1,200 a year, and a $5,000 annual stipend for research or study abroad. Total value over 4 years, $288,800. The acceptance letter arrived on December 15, 2012, in a large envelope with the Stanford logo in the top left corner. It was Saturday. I got home from volunteering at the food pantry at 2:30 in the afternoon. My mother was in the kitchen unloading groceries from Whole Foods. The mail was sitting on the counter in a stack. Bills, catalogs, and one large envelope addressed to me. I saw the Stanford logo and my hand started shaking. I opened it right there in the kitchen. My mother was putting organic chicken in the refrigerator. She wasn't paying attention. The letter said congratulations in bold letters. I read it 3 times to make sure it was real. Dear Jessica, on behalf of the Office of Undergraduate Admission, it is my pleasure to offer you admission to Stanford University's class of 2017. You have also been selected as a recipient of the Hewlett Scholarship, a full merit award covering tuition, room, board, and fees for 4 years. I made a sound. Not a scream, just a noise. This high-pitched exhale that came out before I could stop it. My mother looked up from the refrigerator. What's wrong? Nothing's wrong, I said. I got into Stanford. She stared at me. Stanford? Yes, with a full scholarship. I handed her the letter. She read it. Her face didn't change. She read it again. Then she set it on the counter and said, "This has to be a mistake." What? She picked up the envelope and examined it like she was looking for evidence of fraud. This is your name, but this can't be right. They don't just give full scholarships to random students. You must have qualified for financial aid. We don't qualify for financial aid, I said. Dad makes too much. Then it's a mistake, she repeated. I stood there in our kitchen holding the acceptance letter that I'd worked 4 years for, and my mother looked at me like I'd forged it. Mom, it's real. I applied. I got in. They gave me a scholarship based on merit. Merit, she said. The word came out flat. You got a merit scholarship to Stanford? Yes. She laughed. Not a happy laugh. The kind of laugh you make when something is so absurd you don't know how else to respond. Jessica, Hammer, you have a 3.6 GPA, you play lacrosse, you're in drama club, you didn't even take AP calculus. Stanford doesn't give merit scholarships to students like you. Students like me. She said it like I was a category, a type, the mediocre daughter, the one who wasn't Amy. I took AP English, AP History, and AP Psychology, I said. I got a 2,190 on my SAT. I volunteered at the food pantry for 3 years. I wrote a good essay. She crossed her arms. What was your essay about? I told her. About Marcus and Denise and economic inequality. She shook her head. So you wrote about poor people and Stanford felt sorry for you. That's not merit, Jessica. That's charity. I felt something crack inside my chest. Not break. Crack. Like ice under pressure. That's not what happened, I said. My voice was shaking. I earned this. She picked up the letter again. I skimmed it, then set it down. I'll call them Monday and straighten this out. There's obviously been some kind of administrative error. You're not calling anyone, I said. This is my acceptance letter. This is my scholarship. She looked at me like I'd just talked back to her for the first time in my life. Which I had. Don't take that tone with me. I worked for this, I said. I worked for 4 years. I studied. I wrote a good application. I earned this. You didn't earn anything, she said. Amy earned Harvard. You got lucky. And when Stanford figures out they sent this to the wrong person, you're going to be humiliated. So we're going to handle this quietly before you embarrass yourself. She picked up the letter and the envelope and walked out of the kitchen. I followed her. Mom, give that back. She went into her home office, a small room off the hallway with a desk and a filing cabinet and shelves full of books she hadn't read since she stopped teaching. I stood in the doorway. She opened the bottom drawer of her desk, the one where she kept old tax returns and insurance documents, and dropped my acceptance letter inside. Then she closed the drawer and looked at me. We're not discussing this anymore. You'll apply to UMass in the regular decision round. If you get in, we'll pay for it. If you don't, you'll go to Middlesex Community College for 2 years and transfer. But you are not going to California to play pretend at a school you have no business attending. I couldn't speak. I physically could not make words come out of my mouth. She walked past me and went back to the kitchen to finish putting away groceries. I stood in the hallway outside her office. I'm staring at the closed desk drawer, and I thought about breaking it open. I thought about calling Stanford myself. I thought about screaming. But I didn't do any of those things. I went upstairs to my room and I sat on my bed, and I cried so hard I threw up. Amy came home an hour later. She was home for winter break. She'd finished her fall semester at Harvard with a 3.92 GPA and was spending 3 weeks in Lexington before going back to Cambridge. She knocked on my bedroom door at 4 p.m. I didn't answer. She opened it anyway. Mom told me you got some kind of letter from Stanford. I didn't look at her. She sat on the edge of my bed. Jess, you know that's not real, right? I turned to face her. It's real. I got in. I got a full scholarship. She made the same face my mother had made. The skeptical, an almost amused expression of someone who doesn't believe you're capable of surprising them. Stanford doesn't give scholarships to people with 3.6 GPAs. I have a 2,190 SAT, I said. That's good for Stanford. That's average for Stanford, she corrected. And your extracurriculars are fine, but they're not exceptional. You're not a recruited athlete. You didn't cure cancer. You volunteer at a food pantry. That's nice, but it's not Stanford-level impressive. Why are you saying this? Because I don't want you to get your hopes up, she said. She sounded almost kind, like she was doing me a favor. Mom's right. This was probably a clerical error or maybe a scam. There are fake acceptance letters that go around sometimes. People print them as pranks. It's not a prank, I said. It came in an official envelope with the Stanford seal. And it has a scholarship name and a dollar amount and a contact number for the admissions office. She shrugged. Then call them and find out. But when they tell you it's a mistake, don't be surprised. She stood up and walked to the door. I'm proud of you for trying, though. You worked hard. That counts for something, even if it didn't work out. She left. I sat there in my room and I realized that both my mother and my sister genuinely believed I was too stupid to get into Stanford. Not unqualified. Not unlucky. Too stupid. The idea that I could earn something they respected was so foreign to them that the only explanation was error or fraud. I didn't go downstairs for dinner that night. My mother didn't come check on me. Sunday, I stayed in my room. Monday morning, I woke up at 6 a.m. and went downstairs before anyone else was awake. I went into my mother's office. The desk drawer was locked. She'd locked it. I tried to pick it with a bobby pin like I'd seen in movies. It didn't work. I thought about breaking the drawer. I thought about taking a hammer from the garage and smashing it open. But I didn't. Because even at 18, even standing in that office at 6 a.m., trying to pick a lock to retrieve my own acceptance letter, I still thought maybe I was wrong. Maybe they were right. Maybe it was a mistake. I went to school. At lunch, I went to the library and used one of the computers to log into my Stanford applicant portal. The portal showed my application status. Admitted. Hewlett Scholar. Financial aid award, $288,800 over 4 years. It was real. I printed the page. I took the printout home. That night at dinner, I put it on the table in front of my mother. This is from the Stanford admissions portal, I said. It's not a mistake. It's real. She looked at the printout, then she looked at me. Did you hack into someone's account? No, I said. This is my account, my application, my acceptance. She picked up the paper, walked to the kitchen trash can and dropped it in. Then she sat back down and continued eating her salmon. I watched the paper land on top of coffee grounds and eggshells. Something in me went numb. Not angry. Not sad. Just blank. The crack in my chest from Saturday widened into a canyon, and I fell into it and stopped feeling anything at all. My father, who had been silent this entire time, cleared his throat. Patricia, maybe we should call Stanford and verify. My mother didn't look at him. There's nothing to verify, Richard. Jessica is not going to Stanford. Oh, she's going to UMass or community college. That's final. But if she did get in, my father started. She didn't, my mother snapped. And I'm not going to let her humiliate this family by pretending she did. Amy got into Harvard because she's exceptional. Jessica is not exceptional. She's average. And average students do not get full rides to Stanford. I need her to accept that now before she wastes everyone's time. I stood up from the table. I went upstairs. I locked my bedroom door, and I made a decision. If they wouldn't let me go to Stanford, I'd go somewhere else. Anywhere else. I applied to 15 more schools in the regular decision round. Boston University, Northeastern, George Washington University, NYU, University of Southern California. I applied in secret using fee waivers and a guidance counselor's email instead of my parents'. I didn't tell anyone. In March 2013, I got into 11 of the 15 schools. BU offered me a half scholarship. Northeastern offered me a quarter scholarship. USC offered me $18,000 a year. None of them were Stanford, but they were something. I accepted BU's offer. I forged my mother's signature on the enrollment forms. I set up a payment plan using money I'd saved from babysitting, $4,200 in a checking account my parents didn't know about. It wasn't enough to cover a full year, not even close. But it was a start. I told my parents I'd gotten into UMass. They didn't ask to see the acceptance letter. My mother just said, "Good, you'll commute from home and save money on housing." I didn't correct her. I let her believe I'd be living at home, going to UMass, staying small and manageable and invisible. In August 2013, I moved into a dorm at Boston University. I told my parents I was going to orientation at UMass. I packed everything I owned into 2 suitcases and a backpack. I took the T from Lexington to Kenmore Square. I checked into Warren Towers, a freshman dorm on Commonwealth Avenue. And I didn't go home. My mother called me 3 days later. "Where are you at school?" I said. "UMass doesn't start until next week," she said. "I'm not at UMass. I'm at BU." Silence. "Then, what are you talking about?" "I got into Boston University with a partial scholarship," I said. "I'm living on campus. I used my own money for the deposit." "You forged my signature," she said. Her voice was ice. "Yes, you lied to me." "Yes," she hung up. She didn't call back. My father called an hour later. "Jessica, you need to come home. We need to discuss this." "There's nothing to discuss," I said. "I'm 18. I'm enrolled. I'm staying." He tried to reason with me. He used his lawyer voice, calm and logical, explaining why this was a bad decision financially and academically. I let him talk. When he was done, I said, "I'm not coming home, Dad. I'm sorry." He sighed. "Your mother is very upset." "I know. She thinks you've made a huge mistake." "I know. Have you?" "I don't know yet. But I'd rather make my own mistakes than live the life she planned for me." He didn't argue. He just said, "Call if you need anything," and hung up. I didn't call. I didn't go home for Thanksgiving. I didn't go home for Christmas. I spent Thanksgiving in the dorm with 6 other students who had nowhere to go. We ordered pizza and watched football, and it was the best Thanksgiving I'd ever had. I spent Christmas with my roommate Alicia's family in Dorchester. Her mom made ham and mac and cheese and greens, and she hugged me when I walked in the door like she'd known me for years. She asked about my classes, my major, my plans. She'd listened to my answers. It was the first time an adult had asked me about my life and actually cared about the response. I declared a major in communications. I took classes in media studies, public relations, journalism, and digital strategy. I joined the BU Daily Free Press, the student newspaper. I started as a staff writer covering campus events. By sophomore year, I was writing features. By junior year, I was the editor of the arts and culture section. I loved it. I loved interviewing people, finding stories, writing articles that made people care about things they hadn't noticed. I was good at it. Senior year, I applied for internships at media companies in Boston and New York. I got an internship at HuffPost in their Boston office, summer 2016. I wrote 47 articles in 10 weeks. Mostly local news, some op-eds, a few viral pieces about student debt and housing costs that got picked up nationally. One of my editors, a woman named Carolyn Fletcher, pulled me aside in week 8. "You're a strong writer," she said. "Have you thought about staying in media after graduation?" "Yes," I said. "Good. Apply to our associate producer program. It's competitive, but you'd be a solid candidate." I applied. I got it. Starting salary, $45,000 a year. It was more money than I'd ever seen in my life. I graduated from BU in May 2017 with a degree in communications, a 3.71 GPA, and $58,000 in student loan debt. My parents didn't come to graduation. I didn't invite them. Amy didn't come either. She was in her first year of a PhD program in molecular biology at MIT. She sent me a card that said, "Congrats, Jess. Proud of you." I threw it away. I started at HuffPost in June 2017. I worked as an associate producer for the video team, creating short-form content for social media. Explainers, interviews, news breakdowns. I was fast. I was good at identifying what would perform well. Within 6 months, I was promoted to producer. Within a year, senior producer. In 2019, I got recruited by Berkshire Media Group, a digital media company headquartered in Boston with offices in New York, LA, and London. They produced content for brands, everything from social media campaigns to long-form video series to influencer partnerships. Starting salary, $87,000 a year, plus bonuses. I took it. I started as a senior producer. Within a year, I was managing a team of 12. Within 2 years, I was director of digital content. Within 4 years, I was vice president of digital strategy. In January 2025, at 30 years old, I was promoted to executive vice president of digital strategy, overseeing a department of 140 people with a budget of $68 million. I didn't tell my parents about any of this. I hadn't spoken to them since I left for BU in 2013. 12 years. My father sent me a birthday card every year. I never opened them. My mother sent nothing. Amy and I followed each other on Instagram, but we didn't talk. I'd see her posts occasionally. Photos from her lab at MIT conference presentations. A boyfriend, then a fiancé, then a wedding in 2021 that I wasn't invited to. In 2023, she finished her PhD. The same year, she got laid off from a biotech startup in Cambridge where she'd been working as a research scientist. She posted about it on LinkedIn, looking for new opportunities in Boston area, open to research, consulting, or industry positions. She didn't find anything in biotech. The market was terrible. Startups were folding. Funding was drying up. In early 2024, she pivoted. She started applying to marketing and communications roles at tech companies, leveraging her PhD as proof she could handle data and complex concepts. In March 2024, she applied to Berkshire Media Group for a role as a senior marketing strategist on my team. I saw her application come through. I wasn't involved in the hiring at that level anymore, but I saw her name in the system. Amy Morgan, MIT PhD. I didn't say anything. She got hired in April 2024. She had no idea I worked there. Berkshire had 600 employees across 4 offices. She was in the Boston office. So was I, but I worked on the 12th floor in the executive suite. She worked on the 7th floor with the marketing team. Our paths didn't cross. Until last Tuesday, November 19th, 2025. There was a meeting scheduled for 2 p.m. in conference room A on the 12th floor. The marketing team was presenting a campaign proposal for a major client, a skincare brand launching a new product line. I was required to attend because the campaign had a $4.2 million budget and anything over $3 million needed executive approval. I walked into the conference room at 1:58 p.m. The marketing team was already there, setting up their presentation. And there was Amy, standing at the front of the room in a navy Armani suit, her laptop open, notes in her hand, talking to her colleague about slide order. She looked exactly like our mother. Same posture, same confidence, same certainty that she belonged in any room she entered. I sat down at the head of the table. There were 11 other people in the room. Amy didn't notice me. She was focused on her laptop, pulling up the presentation. The meeting started at 2 o'clock. Her manager, David Kellerman, introduced the campaign. Then he handed it over to Amy. Amy's going to walk us through the strategy, he said. She smiled, clicked to the first slide, and started talking. The campaign was fine. Well-researched, data-driven, creative. She was a good presenter. Clear, confident, engaging. I watched her the way I'd watched her my entire childhood, performing, excelling, claiming space. She was 15 slides in when she paused to take a sip of water. That's when she looked up and saw me. She froze. The water bottle stopped halfway to her mouth. Her eyes went wide. She looked at me, then at the nameplate in front of my seat that said, Jessica Morgan, Executive Vice President, then back at me. Her laptop slipped out of her other hand and hit the table. The sound was loud, a sharp crack that made everyone in the room flinch. The screen went black. Someone said, "Are you okay?" Amy didn't answer. She was staring at me like I was a ghost. I didn't say anything. I just waited. She blinked, swallowed, picked up her laptop. The screen was cracked, a spider web of lines across the display, but it still worked. She set it down carefully and looked at her manager. "I'm sorry," she said. I need a second." "Take your time," David said. She looked back at me. "Jessica?" "Yes," I said. My voice was calm, even. I'd practiced this in my head for 12 years, and now that it was happening, I felt nothing. No anger, no satisfaction, just a strange, distant curiosity like watching a play I'd already seen. "You work here?" "I do," I said. "Since 2019. She looked at my nameplate again. "Executive Vice President." "Yes." She sat down in her chair. Not to continue the presentation, just sat. Her hands were shaking. The room was silent. Everyone was looking at me, waiting to see how I'd respond. I leaned back in my chair. Amy, do you want to continue the presentation or should we reschedule? She didn't answer right away. Then, quietly, can we reschedule? Of course, I said. I looked at David. Let's reconvene Friday at the same time. Give the team a chance to regroup. David nodded, eyes clearly confused but unwilling to push. The meeting ended. Everyone filed out. Amy stayed in her seat staring at the table. I stood up, gathered my notebook and pen, and walked to the door. Then I stopped and turned back. Amy looked up at me. You did a good job on the research, I said. The data on the target demographic was solid. She blinked. Thank you. I nodded and left. I went back to my office on the 12th floor, closed the door, and sat at my desk. My hands were steady. My heartbeat was normal. I'd imagined this moment 1,000 times. Imagined what I'd say, how I'd feel, whether I'd gloat or stay silent. But now that it had happened, all I felt was tired. Tired of carrying 12 years of anger. Tired of being the person who needed to prove something. My assistant, Kara, knocked on my door 20 minutes later. There's someone here to see you. She says it's personal. I knew who it was before Kara said the name. Send her in. Amy walked into my office. She'd taken off her suit jacket. Her shirt was wrinkled. Her eyes were red. She stood in front of my desk, hands clasped in front of her like a kid called to the principal's office. I didn't offer her a seat. Why didn't you tell me you worked here? She asked. You didn't ask, I said. I didn't know you were in media. I didn't know you were in Boston. I didn't know anything about your life because we haven't spoken in 12 years. I know, she said. Her voice cracked. I know, and I'm sorry. I gestured to the chair across from my desk. Sit. She sat. We looked at each other across the 6 feet of polished wood and 12 years of silence. You look good, she said. You look successful. I am successful, I said. And she nodded. Mom said you went to UMass. I didn't go to UMass. I went to BU. She frowned. Mom said, Mom lied. Or she believed her own version of events. I don't know which. Either way, I didn't go to UMass. I went to Boston University. I paid for it myself. I worked 3 jobs during college. I graduated with $58,000 in debt. I paid it off in 7 years. And I built a career in media because I'm good at it. Amy was quiet for a long time. Then why didn't you tell us? Because you didn't want to know, I said. When I got into Stanford, Mom threw away my acceptance letter. She told me I was too stupid to have earned it. You agreed with her. I didn't. Yes, you did. You sat on my bed and told me it was probably a clerical error or a scam. You told me I wasn't Stanford level impressive. You said you were proud of me for trying even if it didn't work out. You said that to my face. She looked down at her hands. I was 22. I didn't know. You knew exactly what you were doing, I interrupted. You've always known. You and Mom decided a long time ago that I was the dumb one and you were the smart one. And you built your entire identity around that. So when I did something that challenged that narrative, you couldn't handle it. It was easier to believe I'd cheated or lied or gotten lucky than to admit I'd earned something on my own. That's not fair, Amy said. Isn't it? You got into Harvard and Mom threw a party. I got into Stanford and she locked the letter in her desk and told me not to embarrass the family. You finished your PhD and she posted about it on Facebook 40 times. I got promoted to VP and she doesn't even know I work in media. That's not my fault, Amy said. You're right, I said. It's not your fault that Mom's a narcissist. But it is your fault that you enabled her. You could have stood up for me. You could have told her she was wrong. You could have called me after I left and asked if I was okay. You didn't do any of those things. You just let me disappear. Amy started crying. Not loud. Just tears running down her face while she sat perfectly still. I didn't know what to do. I was scared. Scared of what? I asked. Scared that if I took your side, she'd stop loving me too. The honesty of it surprised me. I leaned back in my chair. She didn't stop loving me, Amy. She never started. Amy shook her head. That's not true. It is true, and you know it. You've always known it. You were the golden child and I was the failure. That's how she saw us. That's how she treated us. And you benefited from that dynamic, so you never questioned it. What do you want me to say, Jessica? That I'm sorry? I'm sorry. I was a shitty sister. I was selfish and blind, and I let you get hurt because it was easier than standing up to mom. I'm sorry. Is that enough? I don't know, I said. Is it? She wiped her face with the back of her hand. Can I ask you something? Sure. Why did you let me present today? Why didn't you just fire me or have someone else take over my project or reassign me to a different team? Because I'm not our mother, I said. I don't punish people for existing. You're good at your job. The campaign proposal was solid. I'm not going to sabotage your career because of our personal history. She looked at me like I'd said something in a foreign language. You're really okay? Yes. You're really successful? Yes. She laughed, but it wasn't a happy sound. Mom's going to lose her mind when she finds out. Probably, I said. Are you going to tell her? Amy asked. I don't know. I haven't decided yet. We sat in silence. Outside my office window, the Boston skyline stretched out under a gray November sky. The Charles River in the distance, the golden dome of the State House, the city I'd built a life in while my family convinced themselves I'd failed. Do you hate me? Amy asked. No, I said. I did for a long time. But I don't anymore. Hate takes energy, and I don't want to spend my energy on you. That's worse than hate, she said. Maybe, I said. But it's honest. She stood up. Thank you for not firing me. You're welcome. She walked to the door, stopped, turned back. For what it's worth, I'm proud of you. I didn't say anything. She left. I sat at my desk for a long time after she was gone, looking at the city and thinking about the last 12 years. The nights I'd cried myself to sleep in my dorm room at BU, the jobs I'd worked to pay off loans, the promotions I'd earned, the life I'd built. I thought about my mother's voice in the kitchen in 2013 saying, "You didn't earn anything." And I thought about how wrong she was. I'd earned all of it, every single piece, not because I was exceptional, not because I was lucky, because I'd worked, because I'd refused to accept her version of who I was, because I'd walked away from people who made me small and built a life with people who saw me clearly. 3 days later, on Friday, November 22nd, Oddshare and the marketing team presented their revised campaign in the same conference room. Amy was there. So was I. She didn't fumble this time. She presented clearly, confidently, answered questions from the executive team without hesitation. At the end, I approved the campaign. $4.2 million budget, 6-month timeline. Amy's team would lead execution. After the meeting, I pulled her aside. You did well. Thank you, she said. Keep doing well and we won't have a problem. She nodded. I walked back to my office. That evening, my father called. It was the first time I'd heard his voice in 12 years. Jessica? Yes. Amy told me you're her boss. Yes. He was quiet for a moment. She said you're an executive vice president at a media company in Boston. That's correct. He exhaled. I didn't know. I know. I'm sorry. For what? For not standing up to your mother. For not fighting harder to keep you in our lives. For letting 12 years go by without trying to fix this. It's fine, I said. It's not fine, he said. It's not. But I'm asking if we can start over. I don't know, Dad. I need to think about it. That's fair. He paused. Your mother doesn't know I'm calling. I figured. If she did know, what would she say? Honestly, probably that you're lying about your job and Amy's just confused. I laughed. It wasn't funny, but I laughed anyway. Yeah, that sounds right. Jessica, he said, I know I don't have the right to ask this, but can I see you? Meet for coffee or lunch or something? I'll think about it. Okay, thank you. We hung up. I sat on my couch in my apartment in Back Bay, a 1-bedroom with hardwood floors and a view of Newberry Street that I'd rented with my own money, and I thought about whether I wanted to let my father back into my life. I hadn't decided yet. I might never decide. But I know this. I don't need his approval anymore. I don't need my mother's approval. I don't need Amy's approval. I needed it when I was 18 and holding a Stanford acceptance letter in a kitchen where no one believed me. I don't need it now. I built this life without them. I can keep living it the same way. Yesterday, I got an email from Stanford. It was from the alumni office, asking if I'd like to update my information in their system since I'd been listed as accepted but never enrolled. I stared at that email for 20 minutes. Then I replied. I explained what had happened. The acceptance letter, the scholarship, my mother locking it in her desk, my decision to go to BU instead. I said I didn't regret it. I said BU gave me everything I needed, a degree, a career, a life I loved. I said I'd always wonder what Stanford would have been like, but I didn't need it anymore. The alumni coordinator replied 3 hours later. She said she was sorry for what I'd gone through. She said the scholarship would have been honored if I'd been able to attend. She said the offer had been real. She said I should be proud of what I'd built. I am proud. Not because someone else told me to be, because I know what it cost. If you're watching this and you're the kid your family doesn't believe in, the one who works twice as hard for half the recognition, the one who's told you're not good enough, smart enough, exceptional enough, I want you to hear this. You don't need their approval. You don't need their validation. You don't need them to see you. You just need to see yourself clearly. Know what you're capable of, know what you've earned, and build a life that proves it. Not to them, to you. My mother still doesn't know I work at Berkshire Media Group. She still thinks I went to UMass and probably worked some entry-level job somewhere doing something forgettable. Amy knows. My father knows. Maybe one day they'll tell her. Maybe one day I'll tell her myself. Walk into a family gathering I haven't attended in 12 years and watch her face when she realizes the daughter she called the dumb one is more successful than she ever imagined. But I don't need that moment. I don't need to see her face. I don't need her to admit she was wrong. I already know she was wrong, and that's enough. Thank you for staying until the end. If this story resonates with you, Ahmed, if you know what it's like to be underestimated by the people who should have believed in you most, leave me a comment. Tell me your story. Tell me what happened when you proved them wrong. Hit like if you believe hard work matters more than approval. Subscribe if you want more stories like this. And comment where you're watching from and what time it is right now. I read every single one. Take care of yourselves. And remember, the people who underestimate you don't get to write your ending. You do.